Meeting is being recorded.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. I know, you know, it's Friday evening and most of us get busy unwinding and spending time with the family. So I really appreciate you all joining. We did cover a few episodes on thought management and different concepts about thought management. And I specifically focused on cognitive behavioral therapy as a modality to manage thoughts. And so, uh, what we decided to do today was to kind of do a quick summary of the slides of the all of the sessions we covered so far, and then open it up for questions and comments and discussion. Like I mentioned, one of the uh, you know uh, concepts that we believe that's how cognitive behavioral therapy works is that there is an interaction between our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors. And like you see on this slide, there is a, a big connection between how I think affects how I feel, and how I feel affects how I behave. And also, of course, those things play into our physical sensations in our body. So when we are relaxed, we notice a calmness and relaxed feeling in our body. When we are nervous, we notice some, physical sensations that are uncomfortable. So, this is being proven over and again. And, um, basically, this is kind of the construct of how this type of therapy works. And so the focus is on working on identifying your thought patterns, and then we talk about some cognitive, which is just a more, you know, fancy medical word for thoughts. So we apply some thought techniques or cognitive techniques to work on identifying our thought patterns which may be distorted or negative. And then by doing that, we are kind of helping create positive emotions and positive behavior is kind of how it works. And then of course, because we, physiologically experience changes or physical sensations in our body that are driven by our thoughts and feelings, we also learn some behavioral techniques to calm down that physical discomfort that often comes with the thoughts and negative feelings. So we talked about, you know, two common categories of different patterns of thinking, the positive thinking versus negative thinking. So positive thinking is where you're thinking about constructive stuff. It helps you to, feel more like I can do this. Um, I can learn, you're optimistic in a way, then necessary thoughts helps you do what you must do. So to find out if there will be a storm, I need to check weather. So, to be prepared, to be, ready for what the next thing needs to, needs me to do is those are necessary thoughts. And then positive thoughts are more that really make you feel better, make you feel good about yourself, or just in general feel make you feel good. So I can focus on what is good in my life, or what can I do, what I can do. So that those are some examples underneath of each of the subtypes. And then negative thoughts are just contradictory to positive thinking. There are often destructive thoughts, unnecessary thoughts, and negative thoughts. So, you know, it is not unique to, anyone that you just only think positive thoughts. We all have a mixed bag of positive and negative thinking. But the understanding is that once we become more aware of negative thinking, then we can modify that and turn it to neutral or positive thinking, and that's the power we get from one of these modalities like CBT. So then we talked about, there is this whole other category of unhelpful thought patterns or thinking traps, or a more fancy word for that is cognitive distortions that we all have. Again, the idea is to learn those labels, such as, some examples up on this slide. Overgeneralizing one single event makes you, judge that that's what's going to keep happening over and again, and you overgeneralize it to other aspects of your life. Or a small mole may appear like a mountain where you're doing magnification. Sometimes you're downplaying what's positive, what you are doing, how you're adding to some project or adding value to somebody's life. And sometimes people don't recognize that they downplay it, they minimize it. And so I guess the purpose of identifying some of these thinking traps or cognitive distortions again is I start being aware of my thinking. And the moment I'm recognizing, oh, right now I'm overgeneralizing based on one pattern, one experience, I'm generalizing it to other things, or I'm labeling, or I'm jumping to conclusions, or I'm, doing all or nothing thinking, I'm doing mind reading, I'm doing fortune telling. So we went through a bunch of those. So it really helps me call out that thought as, oh, there's something wrong in this way of thinking. And that, in fact, then allows me to take charge to change that thinking pattern and helps me kind of break that pattern of, driving positive feelings and a more appropriate behavior. So, then we talked about, okay, now that we have a little bit of a construct on thoughts and different thought patterns, what are some of the strategies to dispute negative thoughts? So we talked about how we can become detectives of our own thoughts and find the evidence to see what supports my thought. Is this thought really 100% true for me to believe in it and go with the feelings and the behavior it's driving? Or do I need to examine for an evidence to really confirm this is the right thought to have? So this is known as detective thinking. You become detectives of your own thought and kind of refute and find out if this is something you need to 100% believe in. Other strategy we discussed was, sometimes for certain thoughts, we need to do an experiment, and see, oh, I'm worried about if I said this, if I did this, this will happen. It may not be true. Why don't I take a chance to, you know, go for that experiment? And we say you kind of go and face your fear, and that's the way to fight your fear. And more than likely, we are always more in the anticipation phase, is where our negative thoughts or worries are really more prominent, and that's what generally bring in avoidance, or we kind of shy away from facing the fear. But actually what helps is to come out of your comfort zone and actually face the fear to be able to fight the fear. And then, like I mentioned, the purpose of learning different distortions is to identify, oh, I'm doing this, and then use one of the techniques to dispute or challenge that thought pattern. So, you know, moving to the next slide. So now that you got kind of a quick review on some of those strategies, a question I have that I would like to open up for everyone is, which one do you think you would be you using or trying, and if you in fact have questions about any of those that we discussed, and then of course I'll go through a few other strategies, but it might be a good time to take a pause and get some feedback on which strategies do you think would be helpful for you in your day-to-day life.
Hey, either you can type your response to the chat window or feel free to unmute yourself and share. Dr. Leena, we are not seeing your slides anymore.
Oh no, is it? What
Yep, you
happened
need
here?
to share again.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so let me pull that up again. And okay. Um, okay, can you guys see them again?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
see it.
sorry, I don't know what happened. Okay. So any questions coming up, Poonam, on the chat box?
No. So I would appreciate if everybody can just say, which strategy are you going to apply? All, or do you like the number one, two, three? Nope. This is a very quiet audience.
Uh, that's okay.
Or maybe lazy. I don't know.
Or it's like, it's Friday evening and everybody's just little,
Looking for a
tired and
moment.
wiped out from what, from the week. Yeah.
Dr. Leena and Poonam, both all the strategies in fact work. I mean, the detective thinking, facing your fear, experimenting, and solving the thought patterns and all. So, uh, yeah, I mean, there were a couple of incidents in my life. I mean, one of my colleagues suddenly passed away. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much for sharing. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, so he's much younger to me, and so he was one of the very close colleagues, and all of a sudden he passed away. And then there is another incident. One of my friends in the where community I live, he got some brain stroke and all. I mean, suddenly all these things triggered negative thinking. I mean, normally I'm an eternal optimist, but these things triggered some negative thoughts. I mean, my more negative thoughts took over, and I got some panic attacks and all. But I mean, after that, I turned to. I mean, I have took some normal medicines and all. Consulted my doctor, but what my doctor told me is mindfulness will help you more than anything else. Then I started meditating, doing some pranayama, and I have a very good app called Calm.
Mhm.
This- so that also, I mean, there is a lady called Tamara Levitt, and that is one thing that is it's one of the very good apps of iOS. I think it is 2019 best app. So they give, I mean, 10 minutes. There are a lot of content in that, but I mean, all these things, I mean, being mindful, being um, looking at your behavior, thoughts, and trying to change those thoughts and bringing more positivity into life definitely help. So these are my experiences. So
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ramarao. I really appreciate that. Yes, there are a lot of apps, and Calm is one of the ones we certainly regard very well and recommend to our clients. There is also Headspace is another one. I'm sure some of you must have heard about that. And yesterday there was a question which I'm just remembering I couldn't answer. You did bring up mindfulness as one of the recommendations you received from your treatment providers, Ramarao. So, there was a question yesterday from Cliff, who's one of our regular participants in the group. I'm not sure he's in today, but he was asking, how can we apply mindfulness to CBT? So, you know, um, this is the connection. So, in order for me to be able to focus on my thoughts and even to learn about my thought patterns, I need to first find a way to learn to be in the moment. So, as long as I am, not able to do that, and that's what mindfulness means to be in the present, to be in the here and now, and be kind and curious about your present moment and don't look at it with any judgment. And so that practice of taking a full stop and taking a pause and going inwards, and we use breath as an anchor to calm ourselves down, our body, calm our body down, and then that helps to slow down our thoughts. And when we rest in that inner stillness and quietness, that's when you have that great ability or that power that your awareness gets, and the attention muscle, gets strengthened over time by sitting down to meditate or take a pause and breathe. That's when you can actually pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and then look at the big picture. Because once we take a moment to take a step back and look at everything, you may have a different perspective of that same situation. But in the moment, we I may be carried away with what that's triggering me, what kind of thinking I had and the feeling, and then I react. But later on, often when we calm down and we think about it, looking back, often we say, "Oh, maybe I could have done this differently." That's the same thing. So with mindfulness, we're trying to stay ahead in the game. We are building that awareness and that training that attention power to really be able to go inwards, take a pause, and look at what's happening, look at the full big picture, look at what my choices are, what are my ways to different ways to respond to this situation or this particular time instead of react. And so CBT helps us to, like, walk us through the challenging the thoughts, fine tuning your feelings and look at the right response and follow the right response. But mindfulness allows us for that to happen smoothly. It's kind of like a foundation to this, you know, kind of it facilitates and makes this process of cognitive behavioral therapy happen much more smoothly. So in fact, in our field of psychiatry, psychology, there is a whole new movement around. Now we have mindfulness based CBT, mindfulness based cognitive behavioral therapy as a modality. So it has been added to cognitive behavioral therapy as a facilitator to make these changes happen. So since we heard a very good personal example from Ramarao, who I'm very appreciative of coming out comfortably, sharing his challenges with mental health, which is something not uncommon. We all go through challenging times, and just like physical health kind of gets affected by stress, mental health does too. And the good news is that we can fix it. We can find ways to manage that and change that. And so yeah, so I think that's the importance of taking that pause. So when I originally started this series 2 weeks ago, I was focusing on mindfulness. But then, Poonam was kind enough to say, you know what, we should keep going and do a few more things so we can impart, our knowledge and our experience to others, since this is one of the difficult times for all of us. And so I'm so grateful that, we've gotten this opportunity to share. And I have seen a lot of success with these practices of being mindful and practicing CBT in day-to-day life, that it can make a huge difference. I've noticed it in my personal life. I notice it in all the clients I work with, I counsel, or I, treat, and it is a thing that works. You do need to put in an effort. It's not going to just like, oh, now I know this and it will happen. You really have to make an effort to actually take a pause, meditate for a few minutes, whichever platform, whichever app, whichever commentary, whichever method works for you. It does not matter. But we know that's a way to, kind of walk through some of these steps and then slowly implement it step by step in your day-to-day life. And you will see a difference, just like we heard from Ramarao just a couple seconds ago. Okay, so moving to the next couple slides, and then I want to open it up. Want to be mindful of the time. So we also talked about some other strategies to work through negative thoughts. And we talked about this kind of a very interesting strategy called setting up a worrying time or worry time. So we take 5 to 10 minutes to focus. That's our time, like just like we have eating time, sleeping time, uh, time to shower, whatever we carve out things. instead of having, negative thoughts kind of going through your head all day and entertaining them, you're going to say, okay, this is not your time. This is my window. That's when I'm going to worry and think about all the things I need to worry and think about, and just, excuse me, do that in that few minutes. So this is one way of limiting your attention to negative thoughts, and you're also um, you know realizing that it's actually not draining your energy. We know negative thoughts take away a lot of your energy because they draw that attention. They're almost like this little toddler who's asking for a candy. So if mother gives in and gives a candy the first time, the toddler knows all they need to do is just create a little fuss and they will get the candy. So there is this analogy also for our negative or anxious thoughts. They will bug you to keep engaging in them. They will bug you to get that attention and draw your, attention to engage in that chatter. But if you actually say, nope, you're done for, giving candy each time. It's not good for you. I know this is not good for me. I'm going to set up a worry time, and that's when I'm going to worry as much as I want, and then I will shut the chatterbox again. And this works. Trust me, it works. And then, other ways sometimes is you take charge and say, this particular thought keeps coming back to me. I have thought about it. I know there's not much to think more about it. It every time just ruins my mood, takes away my day and moment from me. So I'm going to bring that stop sign in front of me and remind myself, stop, find another thing to distract and engage in, practice some of the relaxation and breathing exercises, and then move on. So, question again for you guys, which strategies do you think amongst those two, or all of them, would you try?
Dr.
Yes.
Uh, me, the time base is working really perfectly. So if I set everything on based on time, after this I'll not think about something. Definitely, it's helped me to overcome about the situation.
Awesome. Very, very nice. Thank you, Alok, for sharing that. Any other comments or thoughts or
Hey, I just started the stop signal and then worry time both. After hearing the day before yesterday's session, I
yeah.
just realized I am obsessing about one single thought again and again. I tried to think, I think I tried, but I couldn't succeed much today. But I hope if I keep trying to calm myself, maybe I can stop it and I can allocate a time. But I do realize that, yes, I'm thinking always that one particular incident and it's hurting me. Yeah, I will try to stop. I try to apply this strategy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So sometimes, if you haven't had a kind of a resolution on certain thoughts, often that also is a big reason why they keep coming back to you again and again. And so, I would encourage you to, I don't know if it's a past incident or what, it's a hurtful incident, we go through. Um, so, if there has been a resolution on that, if it's still a open conflict, maybe it will, not go away so quickly. But if you are able to take a pause and really look at what happened, look at, you know, find a way to come to peace with it, whether by doing pros and cons or, cost benefit analysis, like is it, how worthy is it for me to spend thinking about what's already happened? I can only learn from what's happened and move on. Like find other ways to, kind of have a somewhat like what we say, a solution to the problem if there is a problem. And often that helps also for a closure. So next time you have that thought again, you can say, I have analyzed it, I've gone through all the steps, I have resolved it. And so it's no point going back and doing that all over again. So I'm going to just bring that stop signal And then even if it wants to get my attention, I'll set up 5 minutes in the evening, go back and review those steps I have gone through and reassure or calm myself down. And this
I
takes
think
some practice. It takes some practice and it takes some time. So I would definitely be hopeful and not give up.
Doctor, I think it is ongoing, right? Most of the issues I day to day because I made it as a habit. I am thinking too much, and I'm if something I need to done right. I'm thinking too much. I'm putting a lot of my efforts on it. I have made it as a habit to get things done. Uh, yeah, I think.
Yeah, so that's what happens. Like the reason why thoughts drive our behavior, and there's this saying of they make our destiny, is because over time that particular pattern of thinking almost becomes a habit, a second nature, and you don't know any other way about thinking about it. And so sometimes you have to actually take charge and say this particular habit is not helping me anymore. It's hurting me more than helping me. So what effort can I make to change that? And briefly saw Poonam's comment. There is also this whole you know kind of another way to think about this. So to what's happened has happened. So a full stop is a simple, you put a period, and if you look at question mark, it's twisted. It's just like the nature of question mark. If you just look at the slide, even is crooked and twisted, and so whenever we go in that questioning and why, how, when, that certainly takes us, tangles us more with those negative thoughts and takes away our energy to fight with those thoughts. So, you know, you know, making sure you're also like saying, okay, no more question mark, but I'm going to use period, which is a simple, you know, it's done, it's gone, it's behind me. All I can do is learn from this and not do whatever I did again. Or um, I can, find a way to resolve it if there is no closure, if it was with somebody and I need to, have a conversation and come to peace with it. Or maybe I need to sit down and forgive myself and forgive somebody else. In the mindfulness series, we also did one meditation focusing on forgiveness. And so sometimes that's what you need, like for past events, you just need to go inwards and forgive the person who was in that situation with you that may have caused you hurt, or whether you were on the other side. Forgiving others and forgiving ourselves and getting a closure and putting a full stop really helps us to move forward. And then sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
So, we were also, sorry, is there a
Do you
question?
recommend worry time to be before going to bed or early in the morning or after lunch? What's the good time for worry time?
For worry time. So I actually say that, usually we say push it to the end of the day, because, that way you are, able to get through your day, have a productive day, and you're not necessarily distracted by those thoughts. And so towards the end of the day, you can sit and think through that, and then, close the book for the day, and then, start a new day next day.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And then, a quick review on behavioral techniques, which is something we did yesterday. I walked you guys with a couple strategies just to get you a flavor of those experiences related to these, behavioral techniques. So we did progressive muscle relaxation, we did guided imagery, deep breathing, practicing mindfulness. I mean, the apps like Calm and Headspace, and there's probably many more. I think there's one called Smile. All of those, the ground principles are the same. We are first using our breath as an anchor to slow down our body, relax, and slow down our thought process. And then, you are going inwards, and, you are trying to take a moment to meet with yourself in the inner world we have in, because we are so focused and so distracted by the outer world that we rarely take a moment to look at what's happening in the inner world. We also know that, our innate qualities of being peaceful, being happy, being, uh, joyful. I mean, those are our innate qualities. And, when we are surrounded by external stress, those things are affected. So taking a moment to come back to your inner self, appreciate that inner peace and happiness that we all inherently have. And we just need to tap into that. And, whether you do it more in a mindfulness way, or you do it in a pranayam breathing way, or you do it in a spiritual way, you connect to God and use that as a source of power to draw strength and peace and happiness from that. There's different ways to do it. It can be what appeals to you, what works for you. But essentially the foundation principles are the same. And the idea is to, take time to charge yourself, because we are on the go, 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 go on all the time. Like I funnily use this statement when I'm talking about this is we've become human doings than being the human beings we need to be, right? So we're constantly doing stuff, back to back. After work, we're doing home related stuff, or at least our mind is going all the time. We are not taking a minute to take a pause to be the being we are. And so it's very important for us to be the being we feel that and be in touch with that being, the inner being that likes to be peaceful and happy. And that's why these breaks, a minute every hour, every hour that Poonam has been, talking about, that she has used in her day-to-day life, which I have also used in my day-to-day life, can be immensely helpful. 1 minute at the end of every hour, taking a moment just to go in your inner world, see what's happened in the last hour, what kind of situations you faced, what kind of thoughts you had, what kind of feelings you had, what is going on. Are you building any resentment because of something that didn't go well in that last hour? Is there some kind of anger? Is there any kind of sadness? Is there any kind of frustration? So we know that, if we can take a moment to clear things throughout the day, taking that 1 minute pause at the end of every hour, we can actually be ahead in the game. We are not then layering things and bottling things up. And often that's what happens. We keep suppressing and bottling things up, and then they layer and layer and layer. And then comes time when it explodes. So, so, managing that, day to day stress and dealing with it, charging yourself, reminding yourself about, the wonderful being you are, and going into the next hour, kind of that can really make, you know um, life easy despite of being busy. So, these are again the strategies for behavioral techniques. So any any answers about which ones you would like to try, or which ones appeal to you more than the others? Okay, so Poonam,
Yeah,
over to you.
yeah, there is one question. What are your thoughts on neuro-linguistic programming, NLP? Does it help?
Yes. So, definitely, there is certainly research to support that intervention as well. Um, you know, um, Essentially, I mean, again, there are a lot of different types of different theories that are used to work on our mind, and neurolinguistic theory is one of the ones as well.
Doctor, I would like to share one thing. Sometimes, if I take a walk when I feel very agitated or I'm obsessed with something, if I do a walk, right, to in Cisco campus, it's yeah, we have luckily, fortunately, a lot of space or a lot of green space that helped me a lot. I think that is helping me to come out of that one. Then yeah, I was able to work.
So that's actually a really good, sharing point. Yes, so exercise, taking a minute from getting away from the situation that's maybe the source of stress, as a way to distract yourself, taking a moment to, allow yourself to, get some fresh air, looking at the beautiful greenery. I mean, those are things certainly that take away our mind from the stressful situation or things that we've been thinking about or feeling, frustrated or agitated about. So again, what you're doing when you're walking, Palani Kumar, is probably you're doing some mindfulness. Essentially, you're coming out and you're looking at the greenery, you're looking at the beautiful day, feeling the warmth of the sun, feeling some breeze on your cheek, whatever. So, we know that, you know, taking break, uh, pause, even like taking a walk or exercising for a few minutes or, actually sitting down and meditating. These are all the things that help us release some endorphins, which are this happy hormones in our brains, and which also helps in turn modify our well-being and emotional well-being per se. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really a good thing that you're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Leena. I'm also mindful of time. We are 20 minutes over our scheduled time. Some of our audience had to drop, but they gave wonderful feedback. They will listen to the recording. I did have few slides, but looking at the time, I will not take more time. So we will end right now with 1 minute meditation.
Yes, thank you, Poonam.
Sure. Taking just a minute. I sit comfortably and allow my body to relax. Gently releasing any areas of tension. Focusing my attention on the center of my forehead. I take a moment to look at the screen of my mind. The speed of my thoughts begin to slow down until my mind is quiet and still. My body and mind relaxed. I once again become aware of my surroundings.